When I opened the door that Tuesday evening in March, I wasn't expecting to see a ghost. But there he was. Daniel. My husband. The man who vanished on our wedding day 10 years ago. Standing on my porch like he'd just gone out for groceries and gotten caught in traffic. His hair was longer. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. But it was him. Undeniably him. And the first words out of his mouth were the ones I'd imagined 1,000 times in 1,000 different scenarios. I can explain everything. I want to tell you that I slammed the door in his face. That I called the police. That I screamed. But the truth is, I just stood there frozen, while my 7-year-old daughter called from the living room asking who was at the door. And in that moment, I realized that the man who destroyed my life didn't know he had a daughter. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. June 14th, 10 years ago. The day that was supposed to be the happiest of my life. I woke up at 5 in the morning in my childhood bedroom, too excited to sleep, watching the sunrise paint the walls pink and gold. Daniel and I had been together for 4 years. We'd met in college, fell in love over late-night study sessions and terrible dormitory coffee, and built a future together brick by brick. The wedding was planned to perfection. A garden ceremony at the Botanical Gardens downtown, 200 guests, flowers everywhere, a string quartet. My dress had been my grandmother's, altered to fit me, carrying 3 generations of love. I remember looking at myself in the mirror that morning, thinking this is it. This is the moment my real life begins. Daniel had stayed at his best friend Marcus's apartment the night before. We'd laughed about the superstition, about not seeing each other before the ceremony. He'd kissed me goodbye the previous evening and whispered, "Next time I see you, you'll be walking down that aisle toward me." The ceremony was scheduled for 4 in the afternoon. By 2 o'clock, I was at the venue, my bridesmaids fussing over my hair, my mother crying happy tears, photographers capturing every moment. Everything was perfect. Everything was ready. 3:30 came. The guests started arriving. The quartet began playing. My father came to the bridal suite to tell me it was almost time, his eyes wet with emotion. I remember taking his arm, feeling the weight of the moment, the bouquet trembling slightly in my hands. 3:55. My wedding coordinator, Jessica, came rushing in, her face pale. "We need a few more minutes," she said, her voice tight. "Small delay. Nothing to worry about." But I worried. Of course I worried. 4:15. My mother came in trying to smile, trying to pretend everything was fine. "Daniel's running a bit late. Traffic probably. You know how the highway gets." 4:30. Marcus appeared at the door and I knew. I knew before he said a single word. His face was gray. His hands were shaking. "He's not coming?" I asked, my voice sounding distant, like it belonged to someone else. Marcus looked like he might be sick. "I don't know where he is. He was at my place this morning. We had breakfast." He was excited, happy, normal. Then he said he needed to run an errand. He took his car and he just never came back. He's not answering his phone. I've called 40 times. I drove to every place I could think of. The rest of that day exists in my memory as fragments, shattered pieces that don't quite fit together. My father making phone calls, guests whispering, someone suggesting we wait another hour. My dress feeling like it was suffocating me, mascara running down my face as I finally accepted that this wasn't a delay. This was an abandonment. We called the police. They took a report. A 28-year-old man missing on his wedding day. His car was found 3 days later in a parking garage downtown. Keys in the ignition, wallet on the passenger seat, phone on the dashboard, battery dead. No signs of struggle. No evidence of foul play. Just an empty vehicle that answered no questions and created 1,000 more. The investigation went nowhere. Daniel's bank accounts were never touched. His credit cards never used. His apartment exactly as he'd left it. His family was devastated, confused, desperate for answers. His mother called me every day for 6 months, both of us crying, both of us lost. The police theory was voluntary disappearance, but nobody could explain why. Why would a man who seemed happy, who seemed excited about his wedding, who'd spent 4 years building a life with someone, just vanish? The theories from everyone around me were endless and cruel. He'd been living a double life. He'd had a panic attack and amnesia. He'd been murdered and the body hidden. He'd never loved me and couldn't face saying it. He'd been in debt to dangerous people. He'd had a psychotic break. Each theory was a knife and each one cut differently. But the worst part, the part that nearly destroyed me, was the not knowing. Grief has a structure when someone dies. You mourn, you heal, you move forward. But how do you grieve someone who might still be alive? How do you move on when there's no closure, no body, no explanation? You exist in this horrible limbo where you can't hold on and you can't let go. The first year was survival. Just waking up every morning and forcing myself to breathe. I moved out of the apartment we'd shared. I couldn't afford it anyway, not on my salary alone. I moved back in with my parents at 26 years old, sleeping in my childhood bed, staring at glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling that I'd put up when I was 12. I stopped going out, stopped seeing friends. Every conversation inevitably circled back to Daniel, to the mystery, to people's morbid curiosity disguised as concern. I became the girl whose fiancé disappeared. That's all I was to people. A tragic story. A conversation starter at parties I wasn't invited to. My job in marketing felt meaningless. I'd go through the motions, create campaigns, attend meetings, but I was a ghost in my own life. My boss eventually called me into her office and gently suggested I take a leave of absence. "You need to heal," she said. But how could I heal when I didn't know what I was healing from? The second year was when I found out I was pregnant. I know what you're thinking, but it was Daniel's. From the night before he disappeared. The night we'd spent together, laughing about superstitions, talking about the future, making love like we had all the time in the world. When I saw those 2 lines on the pregnancy test, I had a complete breakdown. I sobbed on the bathroom floor for an hour. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. This was supposed to be a celebration, a planned moment after we were married, after we'd bought a house, after everything was perfect. Instead, I was alone, broken, carrying the child of a man who'd vanished. I thought about not keeping it. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I thought about how impossible it would be to raise a child alone, how I could barely take care of myself, how this baby would be a permanent reminder of the worst trauma of my life. But then I thought about how this baby was also the last piece of Daniel I'd ever have. The last evidence that what we had was real. I named her Sophie. She has his eyes. The same deep brown that I fell in love with in that college library 10 years ago. Every time I look at her, I see him, and for a long time that was both beautiful and agonizing. Sophie saved my life. She gave me a reason to get out of bed. A reason to function. A reason to build something from the ruins. I couldn't afford to be broken anymore because she needed me to be whole. I went back to work when she was 3 months old. Found a better job a year later. Started therapy. Actually started therapy, not just going through the motions. I learned to separate my identity from what happened to me. I learned that I could be more than the tragedy. I learned to laugh again, even though sometimes the laughter felt guilty. By the time Sophie was 4, I'd rebuilt a life. Not the life I'd planned, but a life nonetheless. I had friends again. I had hobbies. I'd even gone on a few dates, though nothing serious. I'd had Daniel declared legally dead after 7 years. It felt like a betrayal, but I needed the closure. I needed the permission to move forward. And I did move forward. Sophie started kindergarten. I got promoted. We moved into a small house with a backyard where she could play. I planted tomatoes and learned to fix leaky faucets and became the kind of independent person I'd never imagined I'd need to be. The pain became a scar instead of an open wound. I thought about Daniel less and less. Some days I barely thought about him at all. Which brings us back to that Tuesday evening in March. The door. The ghost. The impossible moment. "I can explain everything," he said, and I finally found my voice. "Get off my porch. Please. Just give me 10 minutes. I know I don't deserve it. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need you to hear me." Sophie called again from inside, and Daniel's face changed. "Is someone here? Are you married?" And that's when I laughed. Actually laughed, this harsh, broken sound. "Married? You want to know if I'm married? You disappeared on our wedding day, and you're asking me if I'm married? Please," he said again, and there was something in his voice. Desperation. Fear. Something that made me pause. Against every instinct, against all logic, I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You have 10 minutes. Talk." He took a deep breath. and what came out was the most insane story I'd ever heard. I was kidnapped. I stared at him. What? That morning, the errand I told Marcus I needed to run. I was going to pick up your wedding gift. I'd commissioned a painting of the place where we first met. It was supposed to be a surprise. I parked downtown, walked to the gallery, and 2 men grabbed me off the street. They drugged me. When I woke up, I was in a basement somewhere. He spoke faster, the words tumbling out like he'd rehearsed them 1,000 times. They held me for 3 years. They thought I was someone else, someone who'd stolen money from them. By the time they realized their mistake, they couldn't let me go because I'd seen their faces, knew too much. They kept me locked up, moved me around. I tried to escape twice, failed both times. I felt like I was listening to a movie plot. The police investigated. They found your car, your phone, your wallet. There was no evidence of kidnapping. They were professionals. They cleaned the scene, made it look like I'd left voluntarily. His hands were shaking. 3 years. 3 years in hell, thinking about you every single day, wondering if you thought I'd abandoned you, if you hated me, if you'd moved on. And then one day they moved me to a new location and I managed to escape. I got away, but I was in rural Kentucky with no ID, no money, no way to prove who I was. This is insane, I whispered. I know how it sounds, but it's the truth. It took me 2 years to make my way back here. I couldn't go to the police because the men who took me, they had connections. They threatened to kill you, kill my family if I ever went to authorities. I had to stay hidden. I worked under the table, cash jobs, sleeping rough, slowly making my way home. And then when I finally got here, when I finally worked up the courage to find you, I discovered I'd been declared dead. I studied his face, looking for the lie. 5 years. You're telling me it took you 5 years to get from Kentucky to here? I was terrified, traumatized. I didn't know if they were still looking for me. Every time I saw a police car, I panicked. I was basically homeless, working kitchen jobs for cash, sleeping in shelters. It took me time to get mentally stable enough to even attempt coming home. Show me proof. Show me anything that confirms this story. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded, worn newspaper clipping. It was dated 7 years ago. A small article about an unidentified man found in Kentucky, hospitalized with injuries, no ID. The physical description matched him. That was me. After I escaped, they couldn't identify me because I was terrified to tell them my real name. I stared at the clipping. Could be real. It could also be something he found and built a story around. Why now? Why show up now after 10 years? Because I finally felt safe. Because I hired a private investigator to check on you from a distance and found out you're okay, that you've built a life, and I thought maybe you deserve to know the truth. That I didn't abandon you. That I loved you. That every single day for 10 years, you were all I thought about. Tears were streaming down his face. Real tears. Real emotion. But I'd learned not to trust easily. I have a daughter, I said flatly. Your daughter. She's 7 years old and she's inside that house and she's asking who's at the door. You have a child you've never met because you vanished. The color drained from his face. I have a daughter? Had. Past tense. You gave up that right when you disappeared, whether it was your choice or not. He looked like I'd punched him. Can I meet her? Absolutely not. You're a stranger. You might be telling the truth, you might be lying, I don't know anymore. But I'm not letting you anywhere near my child until I verify every single word of your story. Our child, he said softly. My child. I raised her alone. I was pregnant and alone and terrified and you weren't there. Biology doesn't make you a father. We stood there in the cold evening air, 2 people who used to know everything about each other and now knew nothing at all. I'll take a DNA test, he offered. I'll talk to the police now. I'll do whatever you need. I just want a chance to prove I'm telling the truth. Over the next 3 months, that's exactly what happened. DNA tests confirmed he was Sophie's biological father. Police investigated his story. The newspaper clipping was legitimate. They found evidence of his stay in a Kentucky hospital 7 years ago. They tracked down some of his employment records, cash jobs in various states. His story had holes, inconsistencies, parts that couldn't be fully verified, but nothing that definitively proved he was lying. His family was overjoyed. His mother sobbed when she saw him. Marcus was suspicious but cautiously hopeful. Everyone wanted to believe in the miraculous return, the prodigal husband back from the dead. But I couldn't shake my doubts. Something felt off. His story was almost too convenient, too perfectly designed to be unverifiable. Kidnapped by professionals who left no trace? Memory problems from trauma that explained away inconsistencies? Years of homelessness that made the timeline murky? I hired my own private investigator. I needed to know if I was being paranoid or if my instincts were right. What she found shattered everything. Daniel hadn't been kidnapped. That part was a lie. But the truth was somehow worse. On our wedding day, he'd had a complete psychological break. Panic, anxiety, dissociative fugue state. He'd gotten in his car and driven, no destination, just driven, until he ended up 3 states away with no clear memory of how he got there. He'd checked himself into a psychiatric facility under a false name because he was ashamed, because he couldn't face what he'd done, because he was terrified of admitting he'd had a breakdown. He'd stayed there for 8 months, and when he was released he could have come home. Should have come home. But he didn't. He was too ashamed, too afraid of judgment. So he started over. New city, new name, new life. He worked. He existed. And he told himself he was protecting me by staying away, that I was better off thinking he was dead than knowing he'd chosen to leave. The Kentucky hospital stay was real, but it wasn't from escaping kidnappers. It was from a suicide attempt 5 years ago. That's when he'd hit rock bottom. And that's when he'd finally started actually healing, started therapy, started confronting what he'd done. When I confronted him with the evidence, he broke down, admitted everything. Said the kidnapping story was easier than admitting he'd had a breakdown and then chosen to stay away. That he'd been a coward. That he'd convinced himself the lie was kinder than the truth. I was ashamed, he sobbed. I couldn't face you. I couldn't face anyone. I told myself you'd moved on, that coming back would just hurt you more. And the longer I stayed away, the harder it became to return. How do you come back after 1 year? After 5? After 10? What do you even say? I felt nothing. Just cold, empty nothing. You say the truth. From the beginning. You don't build a relationship with your daughter on a foundation of lies. You don't manipulate everyone's sympathy with a fake kidnapping story. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sophie was in her room, playing, unaware that her entire concept of her father was based on a carefully constructed fiction. You need to leave, I said. And you need to stay away. Please, I've been in therapy for 5 years. I'm on medication. I'm stable now. I can be a good father. You had 10 years to be a good father and you chose not to be. Every single day for 10 years you made the choice not to come back. That's not a mistake. That's not a breakdown. That's a choice. He left that day. I told Sophie that the man at the door was someone who used to know Mommy a long time ago. I didn't tell her he was her father. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday when she's old enough to understand complexity and forgiveness, and the way people can be simultaneously victims and perpetrators of their own stories. Daniel sent letters, sent child support, asked for visitation rights. I got a lawyer. We're working through it. Some days I think I should give him a chance. Other days I remember standing in that bridal suite, mascara running down my face, wondering what I'd done to deserve abandonment. The truth is messy. He was sick. He made terrible choices. He hurt me in ways that can never be fully healed. But he's also trying now to make amends. And Sophie deserves to know her father, even if he's flawed, even if he failed catastrophically. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if there is a right answer. All I know is that the man who disappeared on our wedding day came back 10 years later, and nothing about his return was what I imagined. Life isn't a fairy tale. People don't disappear and return with simple explanations. Trauma doesn't excuse choices, but it does explain them. And sometimes the hardest thing we do is figure out how to hold space for both anger and compassion, for both justice and grace. I'm not ready to forgive him. Maybe I never will be. But I'm ready to let Sophie meet him, slowly, carefully, with boundaries and supervision, because she deserves the chance to form her own opinion of her father, separate from my pain. And me? I'm still standing, still rebuilding, still learning that closure doesn't always come in neat packages, that sometimes the ending isn't an ending at all, but just another complicated chapter. The wedding that never happened is still the day that changed my life. Just not in any way I could have anticipated. But I survived it. I survived him leaving, and I survived him coming back. And that, more than any wedding vow, more than any promise or ring or ceremony, is the thing I'm most proud of. I built a life from ruins. I created something beautiful from something broken. And whether Daniel is part of that future or not, I know now that I'm strong enough to face whatever comes next. Because if you can survive the impossible, you can survive anything. And sometimes that's the only happy ending that matters.